which is going to check whether the different policies, principles, rules, regulations that we have adopted or that we have, let's say, installed in our company, that are actually serving the very basic purpose of that management audit or not. Like, for let's say, for example, we are saying that the uh, let's say a unity of command should be adopted, or unity of direction should be adopted, or let's say decentralization of authority should be adopted, or in the case of communication, the scalar chain can be adopted. So in that matter, we can say that whatever the principles of management are there, whether we have adopted all those principles of management in a more thorough manner or not, whether we have been able to successfully create the installation of all those principles in our management policies or our management objectives or actions or not, this is what we are able to check with the help of management audit. Okay, so it is done to examine various policies and actions of management on the basis of course, the SAD standards, like the principles that is given by Henry Fayol, or the principles that is given us by the let's say the F.W. Taylor, and so on. All right. Now, talking about further with respect to the management audit, so we can say that it goes beyond the conventional audit, whereby only the accounts and financial statements are going to be scrutinized or emphasized or checked. Rather, we are going to check the management policies, management principles, management rules, and management ethics or practices, etc. All right. Then the next is social audit. Now, what social audit is all about? So, social audit is concerned with examining the social performance of the company. That is, whether the company is fulfilling the responsibility towards its employees and society as a whole or not. Let's say, for example, provision for general health services is nothing but a kind of an example of social welfare or the social performance of the company. The company must instill in its, you may say, the environment or in its company's perspective. So social audit is basically conducted for the purpose of checking the fact that whether the social performance of the company is going to be, you may say, going to be good enough from the perspective of making it more socially uh, active or socially responsible company or not. So creating a provision of good healthcare services, creating a provision of good infrastructure to work, or creating a healthy work environment is one of the social performance dimension of the company that is being checked with the help of social audit. Then we have secretarial audit. So what secretarial audit is all about? So when the secretarial audit is conducted, it is conducted for the purpose of checking that whether the provisions of Companies Act 2013 has been complied or not. It is going to be conducted to ensure whether the working of the company is in accordance with the provisions of Companies Act 2013 or not. So let's say, for example, as per the Companies Act 2013, the companies are supposed to conduct AGM, all right, and once in a year, or let's say 15 once in a 15-month period. Now, for example, let's say the institution is not conducting the AGM. So in that case, what is going to be happening is that we can say that the secretarial audit is going to verify this fact that once in 15 months the AGM is not being held, and of course you can say that the company is now responsible for this particular point, or for the purpose of not following this rule as per the or in accordance with the Companies Act 2013. So this audit is conducted to ensure the compliance of all the legal requirements, like filing of statutory declaration or certificates of the um, certificates with the registrar of the company. So certificates of importance like sending the notices or sending the termination letters or something like this, you are not sending to anybody, and you are, let's say for example, terminating somebody without even assigning the reason, or without even giving the notice period, or without even giving the, let's say, the notice in writing or termination letter in writing that you have been terminated or your services have been terminated. All right. So this is what we are able to understand from the perspective of statutory audit. Now the next is proprietary audit. Now what this proprietary audit is all about. So basically proprietary audit may be defined as the audit concerning with the decisions of executives with an emphasis on public interest, financial discipline, and why we are doing it, basically in order to satisfy the fact that whatever the decisions that we have taken as a proprietor, these are within the framework of the, let's say, the rights and the freedom that is assigned or given to us under an act of, let's say, a certain sort of act, or under a specific act under which our business is being governed. So let's say for example, if I talk about the partnership firm, so in the case of partnership firm we have two different sort of law, let's say the partnership act as well as the limited liability partnership. So whether we are following the different types of, let's say, the rule, regulation, or the rights or responsibilities or duties or life or freedom that is given to us, of course, by that act. So this is what we are able to check, or what we are able to, let's say, see and observe, that is it good that we are in a situation to conduct all these sort of activities within the law, or whether any act that I am doing is going beyond the provisions of the law that is governing my business. All right. So this is what proprietary audit is all about. So what else I can say is that it is basically again to advise the executives either in preventing or reducing the losses and increasing productivity or improving performance by timely reporting these matters. Right. Then the next is performance audit. Now, what performance audit is all about? So, performance audit is basically involved in judging the efficiency with which business activities are being carried out. So that means we are going to estimate the, let's say, goods and services cost, time involved in it, and the efforts that we are putting in for the purpose of creating a product out of an activity. So when our product is produced within the benchmark time or within the set standard time, we can say that we are on the right path, and we are good to go. There is absolutely no problem at all. But when we are in a critical situation whereby, let's say for example, you are in a situation to, of course, see that the standard time that should be taken to produce a commodity is 1 hour, and the actual time that you are taking is 2 hours. That means extra 1 hour of time you are taking here. So this extra 1 hour can be checked with the help of performance audit, that whether the time that you have taken extra is justified or not, or you are just wasting the here time actually. All right. So a performance audit involves judging the efficiency with which business activities are being carried out. So several persons in an enterprise perform various activities in order to ensure effective internal control is applied or lied, and we are going to ensure this fact that we are in a situation to control the whole business or affair of the organization in a very efficient manner. All right. So, for example, in order to ensure control over cash disbursement, all activities in the purchase procedure are closely monitored, and the purchase requisition, purchase order, purchase invoices, goods received memo, etc. are such sort of activities. So, a critical review of the time, cost, etc. involved in each of these activities is called as performance audit. So, this is what we are able to understand from the perspective of this performance audit, that when we are judging the efficiency of the business with respect to a certain sort of activity, with respect to a certain sort of, let's say, the certain sort of a role or certain sort of responsibility that is assigned by the organization to an employee for the purpose of producing the goods and services. So in that aspect, we can say that of course it's our responsibility and duty to effectively work on the development of the product on time, as well as producing the goods and services qualitatively as well. All right. Next is environmental audit. Now, what this environment audit is all about? So again, environment audit is again a type of a audit um, whereby the environment is kept into the central place. So the environmental audit is a type of evaluation which is created in order to identify the environmental compliance and the management system implementation gaps. So what are the environmental compliances that we have, and the management system implementation gap that we have as well. So along with the related corrective action, we are going to perform the activities as an analogous or similar function to the financial audits. So whatever the activities that we are performing, whatever the act that we are doing, whatever the, you may say, the role and responsibility in which we are engaged, we are always considering this facts and figure, that the environment must not be hampered, environment must be protected, and the corrective action could be taken for the purpose of implementation of the good environment, and we should not damage the environment actually. So it is concerned with assessing companies' performance towards safeguarding the environment. So let's say, for example, if you are polluting the environment by, let's say, dumping your chemical waste in the rivers or in small ponds, which is of course nearby your uh, manufacturing hub or nearby your factory. So this can be considered as an example of this, you may say, the environmental audit, because of which this, of course, environmental audit is being conducted. All right. Next is gender audit. Now what this gender audit is all about? So in the case of gender audit, basically what we are able to see is we are trying to measure the gender equality into the organization, not only for the sake of name, but also for the sake of implementing the policies, running the programs, running the projects, creating the provisions of the services, the structure, procedure, everything that is going to make it fair enough to for both the genders, that is being a male or a female. We are going to check it out and estimate this fact and figure, that of course the rules, regulations, programs, policy, procedure, whatever we have estimated, whatever we have conducted, this is going to be, of course, continuing or going to be estimated or counted as, let's say, the gender equality perspective. So a gender audit is a tool to assess and check the institutionalization of gender equality. That is a bigger perspective with regard to elimination of the gender biasness, like you are paying more salary to male but less salary to female. This is a gender bias. Or let's say you are giving good projects or higher positions in the projects to male gender only, but you are ignoring the females. So this is what we are able to understand from the perspective of this performance audit, that when we are judging the efficiency of the business with respect to a certain sort of activity, with respect to a certain sort of, let's say, the certain sort of a role or certain sort of responsibility that is assigned by the organization to an employee for the purpose of producing the goods and services. So in that aspect, we can say that of course it's our responsibility and duty to effectively work on the development of the product on time, as well as producing the goods and services qualitatively as well. All right. Next is environmental audit. Now, what this environment audit is all about? So again, environment audit is again a type of a audit um, whereby the environment is kept into the central place. So the environmental audit is a type of evaluation which is created in order to identify the environmental compliance and the management system implementation gaps. So what are the environmental compliances that we have, and the management system implementation gap that we have as well. So along with the related corrective action, we are going to perform the activities as an analogous or similar function to the financial audits. So whatever the activities that we are performing, whatever the act that we are doing, whatever the, you may say, the role and responsibility in which we are engaged, we are always considering this facts and figure, that the environment must not be hampered, environment must be protected, and the corrective action could be taken for the purpose of implementation of the good environment, and we should not damage the environment actually. So it is concerned with assessing companies' performance towards safeguarding the environment. So let's say, for example, if you are polluting the environment by, let's say, dumping your chemical waste in the rivers or in small ponds, which is of course nearby your uh, manufacturing hub or nearby your factory. So this can be considered as an example of this, you may say, the environmental audit, because of which this, of course, environmental audit is being conducted. All right. Next is gender audit. Now, what this gender audit is all about? So in the case of gender audit, basically what we are able to see is we are trying to measure the gender equality into the organization, not only for the sake of name, but also for the sake of implementing the policies, running the programs, running the projects, creating the provisions of the services, the structure, procedure, everything that is going to make it fair enough to for both the genders, that is being a male or a female. We are going to check it out and estimate this fact and figure, that of course the rules, regulations, programs, policy, procedure, whatever we have estimated, whatever we have conducted, this is going to be, of course, continuing or going to be estimated or counted as, let's say, the gender equality perspective. So a gender audit is a tool to assess and check the institutionalization of gender equality. That is a bigger perspective with regard to elimination of the gender biasness, like you are paying more salary to male but less salary to female. This is a gender bias. Or let's say you are giving good projects or higher positions in the projects to male gender only, but you are ignoring the females. So this is what gender audit or gender biasness is actually uh, coming into the picture. So the provision of services, structure, proceedings, and budgets, these are going to be considered under this gender audit. And we are, of course, knowing this facts and figure, that the gender itself has been now a big issue. Even there are many NGOs that are working on this area of removing this gender biasness, and for that purpose, even in the companies, this gender audit is conducted. So it allows the organization to set their own house in order and change aspects of organizational culture which discriminate against the women staff and women beneficiary. So we should protect the interest of the women's. We should empower them. We should provide them enough space and a good environment so that they are in a position to make themselves grow and prosper in a very conducive and a positive environment. So this is, you may say, one of the basic premises or the basic reason because of which this gender audit is conducted. All right. Now, about the third aspect, that is on the basis of time limit. Now, what is this on the basis of time limit? So on the basis of time limit, we have again the different categories of the audit. Let's do it one by one. So I'll be first of all talking about the continuous audit. Otherwise, we have periodical audit, annual audit, final audit, interim audit, balance sheet audit. So let's focus on this element right now. So on the basis of the time limit, we have the continuous audit first in place. Now, what continuous audit is all about? So, in the words of Spicer and Piegler, a continuous audit is one where the authority auditor's staff is occupied continuously on the accounts of the whole year, or where the auditor attends at interval, fixed or otherwise, during the currency of the financial year and performs an interim audit. Such audits are adopted where the work involved is considerable and have many points in their favor, although they are subjected to certain disadvantage. So I may not be assuming this fact that you all must be able to understand a lot about this continuous audit with the definition that Spicer and Piegler has given. So what this continuous audit is all about? Continuous audit is something that is going to be done or going to be conducted throughout the year. Now, who is actually conducting this? So, with respect to the continuous audit, I would say that those institutions that are engaged in those activities whereby thousands and thousands of transactions are happening throughout the year. So, it is not at all possible for an auditor in general to, let's say, for example, audit the accounts and financial statement in just 3 hours, or in just 3 days, or in just 3 months, or in just 6 months. So it took a whole year to you not only to prepare the financial statement, but also cautiously prepare all those sort of each and every piece of instrument of financial statement. So how we can assume that the auditor, being an independent person, will be able to manage this work in just 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months? It is not at all possible for the auditor to conduct this activity in just few months. So for that purpose, we need not only the many more helping hands, but we also need the different people of the different stream, different mind, different perspective, different thought process, and different, you may say, the capacity and capabilities too. All right. So let's say, for example, when we are conducting the audit, so we came to know that there is a sales transaction of 2000 people in a one single day. So is it possible for me to check all these 2000 sales voucher, that whether these sales voucher are correct or not, whether these sales voucher are fake or not? So of course it is not at all possible for me, because it's only about 1 day sale. Forget about even the 365 days sale value. So if I estimate 365 days sales value or sales voucher, so just multiply 365 with 5000. So it's going to be a huge figure. So what we are able to understand in this scenario, that the continuous audit is conducted for the purpose of keeping this perspective clear, that whatever the activities we have done throughout the year, whatever the accounts and functions we have prepared, or whatever the invoices that we have prepared throughout the year, these are authentic, these are genuine, and we did not involve in any sort of manipulative activities. Because at the end of the year, estimating 1 million invoices is big enough task, but on an average daily, if I estimate, let's say for example, 3,000 invoices or 5,000 invoices randomly, so of course it is possible for me to investigate these small number of invoices. So what we do in the case of continuous audit, that in the case of a continuous audit, we are always interested in continuously auditing the accounts and financial statement throughout the year. So instead of, let's say, as an external auditor, we are going to, let's say, audit the accounts and financial statement only at the end of the year. Rather than that, we are going to audit the accounts and financial statement throughout the year. So one of the biggest benefit that we are able to get is that we are in a situation to, let's say, estimate all those invoices, checking the truthfulness and correctness and fairness of all those invoices, and apart from that, checking this point also, whether the invoices that we have created or the bills that we have prepared is correct or not, whether the invoices that we have generated is fair enough or not. So these are the points that we, as a human being, as an auditor, we are going to check. Because as a human being, it is not possible for me to audit 1 million pieces of paper with regard to the invoices. But when I am following the continuous audit, it becomes little bit helpful for me to conduct the, let's say, audit of the accounts and financial statement on a continuous basis. All right. Now talking about the pros and cons of this continuous audit. I hope you are able to understand what is this continuous audit. So talking about the pros, that is the positive side or the merit of it. So first is the early detection of errors and fraud. So when you are following the continuous audit, you are in a situation to not only conduct the audit of the accounts and financial statement on a continuous basis, but you are also in a, you may say, the position to detect any sort. So instead of, let's say, as an external auditor, we are going to, let's say, audit the accounts and financial statement only at the end of the year. Rather than that, we are going to audit the accounts and financial statement throughout the year. So one of the biggest benefit that we are able to get is that we are in a situation to, let's say, estimate all those invoices, checking the truthfulness and correctness and fairness of all those invoices, and apart from that, checking this point also, whether the invoices that we have created or the bills that we have prepared is correct or not, whether the invoices that we have generated is fair enough or not. So these are the points that we, as a human being, as an auditor, we are going to check. Because as a human being, it is not possible for me to audit 1 million pieces of paper with regard to the invoices. But when I am following the continuous audit, it becomes little bit helpful for me to conduct the, let's say, audit of the accounts and financial statement on a continuous basis. All right. Now talking about the pros and cons of this continuous audit. I hope you are able to understand what is this continuous audit. So talking about the pros, that is the positive side or the merit of it. So first is the early detection of errors and fraud. So when you are following the continuous audit, you are in a situation to not only conduct the audit of the accounts and financial statement on a continuous basis, but you are also in a, you may say, the position to detect any sort of error and fraud that has had been made in your organization, because of the fact that the employees were thinking that since the invoices are large in numbers, we are not in a position to estimate all these uh, to inspect or estimate all these invoices in one day or even in one week. So they manipulated some of the invoices or some of the bills. And when I'm conducting this audit on a continuous basis, I'll be able to detect their errors and frauds. All right. Now, again, the benefit, talking about the next benefit, is that it is close and extensive checking. It is an example of close and extensive checking, because on a daily basis, on a continuous basis, every day, we are estimating the accounts and financial statement of the concern, and we are always interested in estimating this accounts and financial statement on a regular basis, so that our clerical work can be checked, so that the scope of error and fraud can be minimized, and so that the work that is going to be conducted by the external auditor can be reduced as well. All right. The next we have is knowledge of business detail. So what knowledge of business detail is all about, that when we are conducting the let's say audit of the financial statement of a company, and that too on a continuous basis. So of course the business details knowledge that I am able to get, or I am able to earn, or I am able to understand, or I am able to, let's say, get to know, this is worth more than the amount of information or knowledge or amount of let's say the you may say the checking that I am able to do towards the end of the financial statement. So knowledge of business detail is also an added advantage for us. The next is timely presentation of accounts. So when you are involved in the continuous audit, you must know, as a student of accounts and finance and commerce, that the accounts and financial statement of any public company, or particularly any company who is uh, having the obligation to get their accounts audited, either through government or through statutory audit, they can't make the accounts and financial statement public. Even a public company cannot make its accounts and financial statement public without getting their statements audited. Even if they are, let's say, presenting their accounts and financial statement in the general public, so they are supposed to write towards the bottom of that particular statement that these are based upon the average values, or these are based on upon the current market scenario. It is not the actual amount of money or the profit that we have been able to estimate, or we have been able to add up to our profile. All right. Talking about the cons. So talking about the demerits of this continuous audit. So we have lots and lots of demerit, like interruption of clients work. So let's say I am in your office and I'm continuously nagging you, I'm continuously saying that give me that document, give me those document, give me that bill, give me that invoice. So you will feel frustrated as an employee, you will feel exhausted, you will feel irritated, that every day I am nagging, every day I am let's say asking one or the other paper. So it is going to be nothing but a kind of an interruption of the client's work. So client is nothing but a company. So whatever the activities that I am doing, it is actually going to be considered as an interruption of social sorry, interruption of client's work. All right. Then next cons is time consuming. So of course, as compared to the external audit, which is conducted generally for 2 months, 3 months, or at the max 6 months. So here in the case of continuous audit, you are throughout the year estimating the accounts and financial statement of a company. So of course you can say that the estimation of accounts and financial statement of a company is really a big thing, because of course the companies like big MNCs are preparing thousands and thousands of invoices every day. So how, as a company, as an auditor, as an independent auditor, I'm able to estimate or check the accounts or accuracy of every bill. This is a big problem before us. So basically, you can say that the continuous audit has always been a time consuming exercise. We are not only going to dilute our lot of time in the this sort of audit, but we are also going to lose our productivity, which was hampered because of that continuous nagging by the external auditors. All right. Then we have tempering with figures. What tempering with figures is all about. So when you are involved in the continuous audit, so you have always a scope of tempering the figures, because you know very well that what should be the area of estimation, what should be the area or scope whereby you can manipulate, the profits, when, because you are already knowing each and every piece of information, you are already knowing each and every area where there is a possibility and where there is a scope of, let's say, increasing the profit fake, or decreasing the fake expenses, or let's say increasing the fake revenue over the period of time. So when you are in too much detail, you are already having the grip on that aspect, and of course nobody is able to stop you from doing that, because when you are doing it, of course nobody else is going to say something or anything in the perspective of this these classes. All right. Then next is loss of link in work. Loss of link in work means that uh, when you are, let's say, an accountant, and you are working in a company to prepare the accounts and financial statement of a company, let's say continuously somebody is let's say asking you the details, the required details, somebody is always asking you some or the other sort of information, so that he and she can get the help from you, or he or she can, let's say, help you out in this perspective, that three, four bills out of 10 are always fake. All right. Or you may say, let's say, out of 4 days, every all the 3 days, the continuous auditor has always disturbed you and your work. So what we are able to see is that there will be established a loss of link in work, because I have been continuously distracted by the external auditor in some or the other way. External auditor is, or let's say continuous auditor is asking for document X today, then after 2 hours asking for document Y, then 3 hours asking for document Z. And it is not the story of one day, but the whole year. Every year, the auditor is actually asking the different sort of work done by the auditor, and of course the uh, the work of auditor and the work of employees or the management becomes non-accommodable. All right. And this is what we are able to understand from the perspective of this continuous audit, that continuous audit is, on one hand, is beneficial for us, of course, on a regular basis. If your accounts and financial statements are being checked, so you will be having an information what is right, what is wrong, and where you have made a mistake. But if the continuous audit is followed, so of course you don't have any sort of choice but to follow those rules and regulation. But the cons will follow as well. So whatever the cons that we have discussed, like the time consuming activity, tempering of figure work, the finger yeah, the financial figures of the companies, or loss of link in work, so all these sort of points are going to be present or visible during the work that we are doing with respect to the audit. All right. Next is periodical or annual or final audit. Now, what is this periodical, annual, or final audit? So, we are able to understand from this point that when we are doing a periodical audit of our final accounts only once in a year, or only at the end of the year or towards the end of the year, this particular audit is called as periodical or annual or final audit. So the audit done after the books of accounts have been closed and the final accounts are drawn up as periodical drawn up, then the periodical audit is conducted. So periodical audit is going to be conducted only and only when the final accounts have been prepared, whereas on the other hand continuous audit is something that keeps on happening, that keeps on you may say happening over the period of time. Nobody is going to stop. All right. So the auditor is given possession of accounts book and are returned back to the client only after the audit has been completed. So when the audit has been completed, so this is going to give you a boost, or you may say this is going to give you a certain sort of relief that at the end of the year you have now estimated the accounts and financial statement rather than throughout the year. Talking about the pros and cons of this periodical or annual or final audit. So the pros, that is the benefits of it, are smooth workflow. Smooth workflow means that you have prepared, let's say, accounts and financial statement. Let's say you have purchased your car one, all right, then you have purchased again second car, then you have purchased again third car. So when you are going to show the depreciation value of these three cars putting together, so it may be quite possible that in these 3 years in the beginning the depreciation amount may be different, but once you have been able to create or streamline all these amounts or figures or depreciation of all these three cards in one particular year, so the workflow will get smooth. But it is not going to be there in the case of the continuous audit, because on a continuous basis somebody is distracting you. So of course your workflow will not be smooth in case of continuous audit, rather it will be smooth in the case of periodical, annual or final audit. All right. Then no interruption in client's work. No interruption in client's work means that it has been made as a rule that nobody, no country is going to let's say no particular company or no particular auditor is going to interrupt the client's work, or no particular company is going to interrupt the client's work. So the client is always having the freedom to decide what is to be done, what is not to be done, and how the work is going to be conducted. Then again, it is economical also. Why economical? Because once in a year if I am conducting this audit, so of course it is going to be economical for me always. All right. Then we have collusion free. Collusion free means that we don't have any sort of two different sort of notion or two different sort of thought process which we are going to take up here. We are very much clear that independent auditor is going to come and he or she is going to audit our accounts and financial statement. So we don't have any reason, or we don't have any sort of, you may say, the reason to believe that somebody else is going to come. I am supposed to finish my job, and this is of course collision free because I don't have any sort of clash of interest. Then we have no boredom. No boredom means that, let's say for example, I am teaching you this subject, auditing and corporate governance. Now in between when I am teaching you, certain sort of interruption is happening. Let's say somebody else is going to come here and take your class for 10 minutes. Then after 10 minutes, I'll resume my class again. Then after 10 minutes, that person is coming back again and taking your class for next 10 minutes. And then again, I am going to continue my class for here for, let's say, the rest of the time that I promised to take up. So that means it is going to be, let's say, kind of a boredom activity on a continuous audit work, that you are always involved in the audit process. Even I have seen various cases whereby the individual people who are the auditor are working in a company, let's say as an employee, and they are auditing the financial statement of the other different employees of or other different companies. Of course, not the same sort of genre or same sort of nature, but you can say that the companies whose accounts and financial statement are going to be audited is based upon their independence and their accounting rules and regulations that we are going to follow. So when you are going to audit the financial statement of a company in one go, so of course you will not feel bored, you will not be having any sort of boredom, or you will not be having any sort of the disrespectness for this audit work, because throughout the year you have been involved in this audit work. So we cannot estimate, or we cannot say that this particular periodical report is going to make the people bored. Rather, the periodical annual or final audit is going to bring no boredom among the shareholders actually. All right. Now the next, talking about the cons, यानी हमारे जो डीमेरिट्स हैं इस periodical audit के या annual audit के, उसको एक बार देख लेते हैं। तो सबसे पहला डीमेरिट क्या है? डीले। अब डीले का मतलब क्या है? जैसे मान लो फॉर एग्जांपल आपने दिसंबर 2021 को फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बना ली, ठीक है, कैलेंडर ईयर आप फॉलो कर रहे हो फाइनेंशियल ईयर में। अब अगले साल मार्च 2022 तक जब तक आपके अकाउंट्स या फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट ऑडिट नहीं हो जाते, आप इन्हें पब्लिश नहीं कर सकते। क्यों नहीं कर सकते? क्योंकि ऑफकोर्स आप अगर अनऑडिटेड पब्लिश करते हो तो आपको उसके आगे लिखना पड़ेगा अनऑडिटेड अकाउंट्स एंड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, और शेयर होल्डर्स जनरली अनऑडिटेड पे विश्वास अब नहीं करते। गॉन आर द डेज व्हेन शेयर होल्डर्स वाज were very much, you may say, the useful for that sort of decision, or for that sort of matter. Now when we are going to conduct this annual audit, so always, even if the auditor is appointed by the shareholder, of course, it is appointed by the shareholder. We will discuss later on in the slides. But for the time being, what I would like to say here is that auditor, when conducting the audit, so same sort of work, same sort of activity is going to be happening for a certain period of months. So it becomes monotonous for us. That same activity I'm doing every day, same sort of task I'm doing every day. There's no new challenge for me. So it may be quite possible that we are going to, of course, uh, have certain sort of mastery in the accounts and financial statement auditing, but we will be having, let's say, the monotonous job, and there will be a delay in the publishing of the financial statement as well. I told you that how it is being made possible. Then detailed checking not possible. Checking not possible means that I have given an example of the quantity every day. Now, will you be able to check all these invoices in just few months? No, not at all. Nobody to randomly check. We are doing the random checking that are 10 in numbers or 5 in numbers. That means that I am not checking in detail the ledgers, invoices, and other piece of information which is provided by the this periodical audit. All right. Now, possibility of errors and frauds. Possibility of errors and fraud means that if you are involved in a, let's say, detailed checking, or if you are involved in a very short period of span auditing, so of course there is always a scope of involving in the errors and fraud, not intentionally but sometimes unintentionally as well. Let's say for example, you have had 10,000 invoices that have been created by the company throughout the year. All right, I'm taking 10,000 for a year. Now, out of 10,000, you have been able to check only 500 invoices by randomly calling these 500 people. it might be quite possible that the one to whom you did not call was a face invoice buyer, or the fake invoice against that sale was there, you did not check. That means we can say that there's a possibility of errors and fraud much as compared to the continuous audit, because in the case of continuous audit, the auditor was continuously auditing the accounts and financial statements of the company. But here in this case, it is simply not like this. It is simply not at all like this. Okay. Then next is unsuitable for large firms. Unsuitable for large firm means that if you are having a large institution, large firm, whereby every day 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 invoices are being created by the company over the period of time. So this is going to be uh, not a good deal for you, or you may say this is going to be a not a win-win situation kind of thing for your company as well and for the auditors as well. All right. Now let's move towards the interim audit. Now, what this interim audit is all about, and what are the different whereabouts of it, or what are the different sort of dimensions of it. So, interim audit is an audit which is conducted in between two annual audits. All right. So let's say, for example, every year on December, the company is conducting unsuitable for large firms. Unsuitable for large firm means that if you are having a large institution, large firm, whereby every day 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 invoices are being created by the company over the period of time. So this is going to be uh, not a good deal for you, or you may say this is going to be not a win-win situation kind of thing for your company as well and for the auditors as well. All right. Now let's move towards the interim audit. Now, what this interim audit is all about, and what are the different whereabouts of it, or what are the different sort of dimensions of it. So, interim audit is an audit which is conducted in between two annual audits. All right. So let's say, for example, every year on December, the company is conducting a final audit or the annual audit. Now, in two different time periods, two December period, if the company is conducting the audit of the accounts and financial statement, so this is going to be called as interim audit. The same thing goes with the interim, uh, let's say, general meeting, yeah, interim uh, dividend also. So interim audit is something that is conducted, or the audit that is conducted in between two annual audits. So its object is to enable the company to declare an interim dividend. So let's say, for example, in between these two December period, company is very much interested in giving the dividend to the shareholder, not because of the fact that the company has earned good amount of profit, but because of the fact that the company wants to lure or attract the shareholders of the company. So for that matter, company can offer, or company can, let's say, for example, conduct or interim dividend can be paid. And of course, similar to that notion, the interim audit is also being conducted. All right. So it involves a complete examination and review of the accounts and records again of the business, but up to the date of audit. So let's say, for example, last audit was conducted on December 21st, and now the next is due on December 22nd. And let's say I am interested in estimating my accounts, or let's say checking my financial statement on 1st January 2022. So in that case, the interim aspect is going to be affected, or not even 1st July 2022. I can say that, let's say, whatever the time period we spent, whatever the time period we used for the purpose of, let's say, auditing the accounts and financial statement, up to that period, up to that particular time zone, we are going to audit the accounts and financial statement. So December 21st and December 22nd. If I am going to audit the accounts and financial statement on 1st July 2022, so this will be called as interim audit, and I'll be covering all the transactions, not only 1st January to 31st December 2021, but also to the period till 1st July 2022. So this will be, you may say, one of the last aspect that is very important in the interim audit. All right. Now the next topic is that it needs, or we short right, uh, it needs to be uh, conducted from the perspective of a short and time period audit of the accounts and financial statement up to the date of the audit as well. Now, interim audit again may be conducted for 3 months or 6 months period, but it should be avoided. Like 6 months of period should be avoided because of the fact that if I am going to conduct the audit for the 6 month, so of course 6 months you have already taken for the final audit, then again 6 months you are taking for the interim audit, and then again 6 months you are going to take for the final audit. So in the last 1 or 1.5 year, your whole institution was involved in the audit of the financial statement only. So that will become very much monotonous for us, and it is not at all advisable to go ahead with this sort of system. All right. Then talking about the features of it, so early detection and detection, rectification of errors and fraud, same like the previous errors or previous features, and then early completion of the annual audit. So if you have already done 6 months of audit, so the next 6 months of audit can be done very much easily in a lesser period of time. Useful in case of a business where interim figures have to be published. So let's say before the interim dividend, if SEBI has asked you to publish your accounts and financial statement, so you need to get your accounts and financial statements completed, checked or audited, then only you can go ahead and do that activities. All right. Then exercise a moral check on the staff of the enterprise. So there is always a kind of moral pressure on the staff of the enterprises that let's say uh, nobody is going to uh, treat us with the suspicious eyes that we have been found in a certain sort of manipulative activities or something like this. So it is very useful to have the moral check of the staff of the enterprises in this perspective as well. Now, interim audit has also certain disadvantages, like the staff of the enterprise may alter or tamper with the figures audited up to the date of an interim audit. An interim audit increases the work of the staff as they have to prepare detailed concerning figures in accounts books, and then the interim audit is time consuming and exposures. Okay, so this is what we are able to estimate, or this is what we are able to understand from the perspective of the interim audit, that interim audit is not only time consuming, but it is also expensive. At the same time, it is giving you exposure, but the expensiveness is outweighing the benefits of the interim audit. All right. Now talking about the balance sheet audit. So this is the last audit actually on the basis of the perspective or periodicity that we were discussing. So balance sheet audit, we know that balance sheet is always prepared at the end of the financial statement. So all these sort of items that are appearing in the balance sheet, if we are going to audit only the balance sheet of the institution or concern, so this audit type is called as balance sheet audit. All right. Even though it concentrates on the items in the balance sheet, it also involves examination of other operations as well, like cash flow statement, fund flow statement, etc. So the balance in the profit and loss account is carried to the balance sheet. Therefore, the auditor has to review the items recorded in the profit and loss account. All right. So I hope this point is pretty much clear to all of you. Now the last slide for today's class and the